Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. Right. It's been a while. I have a skullet now. I'm not wearing my usual makeup because honestly, I just couldn't be bothered today. Happy New Year, I guess. Today, we are looking at my AO3 WRAPPED 2025. I don't know if y'all could see that. Actually, 1 second. I'm gonna put myself up on the screen. So, AO3 WRAPPED 2025 by Avatar of the Lesbian, also known as Distorteddies on AO3, okay? Let's get into it. We're gonna start off with some basic stats, right? In the year of 2025, I read a total of 10,434,871 words over the course of 685 total fics. This was honestly less than I thought that it would be. I didn't track my reading in 2024, but I feel like back then I averaged probably like 1.5 million words a month, which obviously 10 million does not equal 1 million words a month. Just with some basic maths. I don't know though, I failed maths. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but who am I to say? Again, this year was like year 12 and there was a whole lot of stuff going on, and unfortunately reading fic a lot of the time does not make me less stressed. Anyway, out of those total fics, my longest fic was 308,597 words. The shortest fic that I read was 105 words, and this averages out to be 15,233 words per fic. Out of the 365 days of the year, I read at least one fic for 217 of them, which averages to be about 48,087 words in a day. So, okay, boring things out of the way, we've got some more boring things. We've got more basic stats. So, out of those 685 total fics, I read 486 one-shots. 71% of the total amount. I am a one-shot warrior. I also don't know if myself on the screen is blocking any of this, but if there's anything that, like, you guys actually need to read, I'll get myself out of the way. Okay, in terms of multi-chapter fics, not counting any one-shots, I averaged about 11 chapters a fic, and I averaged about 57 fics per month. Alright, so these are about my words per month. It's a little bit confusing to look at because I didn't add any commas or spaces between the numbers. Whoopsies, I guess. I really don't know what was going on in August, September, October, because I had way more stuff on during November, and it was like my biggest fic reading month. But anyway, there's my words per month, and it becomes even more obvious in my fics per month section. What happened in August? That's what I want to know. What on earth happened in August? Okay, I'm going to bring myself back now for the next part. Hi guys, I return. My top day was the 15th of July, where I read 315,592 words. I will note that in terms of the days, I'm counting the fics that I read when I woke up in the morning to when I went to sleep at night, right? It's not like I switch over to the next day at midnight or anything, because honestly, otherwise it'd just always be the next day, because I read very few fics before midnight, unless it's a school night, to be honest. In total, I read 27 fics more than once. 23 of those were because I read them for the first time before 2025, and 4 of them I read twice in 2025. I was going to do like a most reread fics thing, but it turned out that the only fics that I've reread once, so it would just be a list of 2, and that's boring. Nobody wants to see that. Next up is fic data, probably the more interesting part of this whole presentation. We're going to start off with some basic stats. I read a total of 83 slash pairings, 73 platonic pairings, and 11 fandoms. 9 works were either incomplete by the end of the year, or I just stopped reading them before they were completed. I'm pretty sure there was only 1 that I stopped reading before it was completed. I don't believe in publicly critiquing fanfiction or anything, but it was a Hannibal fic, right? And they were both cis, and it was not tagged mpreg, but they kept, like, every single chapter, Hannibal kept talking about getting Will pregnant, and there was like no indication of that anywhere in the tags, and I'm like, get me out of here. Get me out of here. It was so weird. Anyways, this is a breakdown of my archive warnings. As you can tell, I'm not very exciting in this regard. 69% had no archive warnings. 16 creator chose not to use them. 9 had graphic depictions of violence, and while it says that 5% had major character death, the majority of those, I think all but like 1 or 2, were from the same series, and that series was crack. So I'm not sure if it really counts, But okay, let's go on to the ratings. I don't really have anything to say for myself here. General, explicit, and mature are all pretty even. You know, it just follows that I wouldn't be, the explicit section probably would have been a lot bigger if I hadn't been so into John Martin this year. Just saying that entirely honestly, you know. Honesty is the best policy. Yes, alright. My top 5 authors were Briar Fairchild, Cyrus Gray, Anti-Hero Blake, and that was entirely because of Old-Fashioned Divinity Candy. If you know, you know. Orange Juice Lesbian, and arthurameslove. Here are my categories. I didn't know where else to put these because it didn't really follow naturally to any of the slides. As I mentioned, I looked at a lot of John Martin Hanagram, so that's why flip it around. Flip it around for 104, which is really unfortunate. I am Avatar of the Lesbian for a reason. This has to stop. I need to read more women kissing, I think. But we've still got, like, some alright variety here. We've even got some straight people. I'm pretty sure that was all background ships. But, you know, I'm not straight phobic, guys. I'm not straight phobic. Speaking of fandoms, were we? I don't know. We are now. The Magnus Archives was my top fandom, of course. Really. Followed not very closely at all by Hannibal, which had another steep drop down to Arcane, and then the Magnus Protocol and Welcome to Night Vale. As you can see, the Magnus Archives outstrips, like, everything else. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that Charlie Countryman and Jeopardy were just fandoms that showed up in, random crossovers and stuff like that, so I don't really think it counts as a fandom that I've read for. So really, I only read for, I believe, 9 fandoms, which, I mean, it's probably more than I expected. It's probably more than I expected. I don't know what I expected. I'm gonna come back now. Appears in a cloud of smoke to read off my top 10 tags. I think I might be blocking some of them. Again, I can't see my thing. We start off, it might be a little bit freaky, guys, but with some fluff. Most of what I read is fluff one-shots, to be honest. And I'm also slightly surprised that there's nothing remotely not safe for work in these top 10 tags. Like, yeah, I mostly read teen-rated fics, but I still read a lot of explicit, but whatever. We've got fluff, herd comfort, first kiss, canon asexual character, Scottish safe house period, established relationship, post-canon, kissing, domestic fluff, and humour. I believe that right below humour was mutual pining, just nice thing to add, but other than that, kind of dull. Editing Jude here, I did exclude alternate universe canon divergence from just like the general top 10 list because that's kind of boring, honestly. But it's gonna be in the chart. You're gonna see it. Okay, you guys can pause and read this fully if you want to. I won't be staying on it for long. You can tell the influence of Old-Fashioned Divinity Candy on that though, because yeah, it's not like I'm just going on AO3 and being like, well, where's my sugar baby Hannibal Lecter? You know? Next, we've got top 10 pairings. To nobody's surprise, my top pairing was John Martin, aka T. Holding. I wish more people used T. Holding. I just say John Martin because it's easy and people know what I'm talking about. But I'm so mad that fucking Elias and Peter stole Lonely Eyes as a ship name because, like, it's not a great name, but it's still better than John Martin or J Mart. Like, I get my eyeliner at Kmart. It's, like, not the same thing. But yeah, we've got John Martin, followed by Hanagram, of course, and What the Girlfriends. And then there's JVic, which, honestly, I'm a little annoyed about because I complain a lot about Kate Vi being overshadowed by JVic, and now look at me. Kate Vi is 9th on this list, and JVic is 4th. It only differs by 4 works, though, and I promise I'm not one of those weird, strange JVic fans, okay? I've been a JVic from day one, pretty much. Please don't know what I'm talking about. Next is Sasha James and Tim Stoker, because while I will read background Tim Sasha, I'm just not really into it as a ship. Whatever. Then we've got the Archival Crew, Lonely Eyes, Die Hard, Kate Vi, and Cecilos. I'm honestly surprised Cecilos made it onto the list, but it was mostly smart. Let's be real. It was mostly smart. There's a pretty steep drop-off after my top 10 ends, really. Oh, by the way, the Savika one is Savika times Reader. I just realised that you can't actually see it there, and I just felt like exposing myself a bit more because apparently that's what I'm doing. We're going to move on. Next, we've got top pairings by month. I did originally have the text animated, so it would have been more entertaining for you all, but that just wasn't working. Like, my laptop is already heating up so bad. It's resting on my foot right now, and it's so hot. I hope that my video isn't lagging too much, but unfortunately I can't see that. So for January, we've got T Holding. For February, we've got T Holding. For March and April, So we have Hanagram. And then May, T holding. June, T holding. July, T holding. August, John Martin. September, John Martin. October, J Mart. November, T holding. December, J Mart. See, we've got a whole variety of ships here, guys. Really, I read a lot of different things. Yeah, totally. Now we've got top 10 characters. Oh, did I leave the animation on this one? Excuse me? Okay, yeah. Right, yeah, I did. All right. Number 1, we've got Jonathan Sims, to nobody's surprise. Next, Martin Blackwood, Tim Stoker, Sasha James, Will Graham, Hannibal Lecter, Elias Bouchard, Melanie King, Georgie Barker, and Peter Lucas. Why did I only leave the animation on the least entertaining slide? I don't know. And I'm kind of pissed off that Peter Lucas is even on this slide, to be honest, because he pisses me off. So does Elias, but Peter reminds me of my mom, and Elias I just want to kill. Yeah, it's you know, not particularly interesting. There's Helen Distortion there. Helen Distortion, guys. Why is it only at 18? Wait, no, if Helen Distortion is 18, I'm also 18, which means it's not like weird or illegal or anything. Come on, girl, come on. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Okay, let's just change the slide. Authors segment, guys, because I spent a lot of time this year writing fanfiction as well as reading it. So why not take a look at that? I wrote a total of 275,568 words of fanfiction this year. I had written some fanfic in previous years, but never as much as this, right? Like, I'm pretty sure the biggest year that I'd had before was around like 30 to 40k words. This outstrips it majorly, and that was over 71 total fics. 4 of them were multi-chapter, 67 of them were one-shots, and 70 of them were written entirely in 2025. There was one fic, which was also incidentally my first multi-chapter fic, that I began in October of 24 and finished in February of 25. And I will be including it in all of the stats mentioned in this video, because it's my video and I can do what I want. Next up, we've got just my engagement. I feel like I would have had a little more if all of my fics weren't account only, because after that whole AI scrape, I just decided better safe than sorry, because why do they want to know what I'm reading? Like, oh my god. Little tangent here, okay, just like bear with me. I hate seeing obviously ChatGPT stuff on AO3. It's not super bad in the fandoms that I'm in, right? But like there are a couple of things and it's like, this is just obviously AI. And then there's other things that I get suspicious. Oh, is this AI? It's using like AI phrases, and then I see it was written in like 2017, and I'm like, oh yeah, because AI steals from existing things. Yeah, right, that makes sense. Anyway, okay, tangent over, that's for a different video if I ever get around to making it. 17,871 total hits, 3,086 kudos, 626 bookmarks, 389 comment threads, 114 subscriptions, and 62 user subscriptions, which I think is pretty good, honestly. My fics this year were, I mean, you'll see, I have a whole fucking presentation here, saying what my fics this year were. Why do I need to say it now? The longest fic that I wrote is also the longest fic I've ever written, unknowing either sight nor sound, at 78,406 words. It took me 120 days, or 4 months to write, and got 1,662 hits, 62 kudos, 32 total comments including my own, and 16 bookmarks. I'm going to talk more about this one later, but, you know, you can read the tags, go read the fic, guys, if you want to, if it looks interesting, go read it. The shortest fic that I wrote this last year, I keep referring to 2025 as this year, and it's really pissing me off, but the shortest fic that I wrote was 767 words. It took me less than a day. It was for some like monthly challenge, right? And it got 149 hits, 26 kudos, 4 total comments, and 2 bookmarks, which is again honestly pretty good because nothing really happened in that fic. As mentioned, I didn't really get up to much. I have a total of 4 slash pairings, 4 platonic pairings, and 1 fandom, and none of my works was incomplete by the time the year ended. These are my archive warnings. Again, not interesting. This isn't even a bit. I don't know why 6-7 is following me in this presentation, but it's really annoying me. 94% had no archive warnings, 4.2% had creator chose not to use archive warnings, and 1 had major character death because I felt sad. These are my ratings, and I'm aware that I forgot to put the number on in the chart, but I've already deleted the spreadsheet that I used to make this because it wasn't like my main tracking spreadsheet, it was just a random untitled document and I didn't want to keep it around. But this is 50 general, 20 teen, and 1 mature, so it was pretty easy to remember. Moving on, we've got the Magnus Archives was the only fandom that I wrote for. Unsurprisingly, guys, unsurprisingly. And the top 10 tags that I wrote were Fluff, Flufftober 2025, Post-Canon, Scottish Safe House Period, Somewhere Else, title from a Hosier song, Hurt Comfort, Kissing, title from a Will Wood song, and Developing Relationship. I should have thought of like a better way to do this that wasn't just me removing myself from the video every time I needed to show you one of these charts, but we're too far in now, okay? None of these tags is particularly interesting. Like, we've just got a bunch of fluff, some Hurt Comfort. We've got, yeah, a bunch of fluff and some Hurt Comfort. We do have some lonely content though, of course, because who would I be if I wasn't writing lonely content? Speaking of monthly challenges, I participated in 2 last year. The first 2 that I've ever done. The first one was Fluffy July, which I wrote 53,495 words for over the 31 fics that I wrote. The pairing was just John Martin because it was just fluff one-shots, right? And yeah, that was the first one I did, and I got pretty burnt out from it, but I still decided to do Flufftober for some reason. I decided that I would write fewer words for Flufftober because I had a lot of things on with school and stuff, but I did not keep to that and ended up writing 66,831 words for that one, which I even set myself a word limit that I didn't stick to. Why did I set it then? I don't know. Let's keep going. These are my categories. I'm not moving out of the way for this one. I wrote 65 mm, 5 ff, and 3 gen. The gen was, there was like 1 gen where it was actually the main focus, and then the rest were just like in the background because people were friends with each other in my fics, guys. People can be friends, you know, I don't actually ship everyone. But yeah. My top 5 pairings, not top 10 because I didn't write 10 pairings, were T Holding, Annabelle/Helen. Guys, we need more Annabelle/Helen fics, please! Or Helen/me, or Annabelle/me, or Annabelle/Helen/me. Sasha James and Tim Stoker, What's Girlfriends, and Gertrude Agnes. There is no chart for this one because I only wrote a total of 8 pairings, and I believe that the other 3 were Jerry and Gertrude, Martin and Peter, and could have been Martin and Peter, I don't know, and the archival crew. So it really wasn't very interesting. No, it was John and the Admiral. Anyway, whatever. My top 10 characters were Jonathan Sims at 67 works, Martin Blackwood, Tim Stoker, Annabelle Kane, Helen Distortion. I caught that on camera and I'm not clipping it. You guys need to know the truth. Sasha James, Georgie Barker, Basira Hussain, Melanie King, and Gertrude Robinson. Now have a look at my top 20 characters because I did not write for 25. You can tell that these are the only characters that I wrote for because that's how Gabriel and Martin Blackwood's mother managed to sneak into this little top characters ranking. If you want to read that properly, you can pause it and have a look, but I'm going to be moving on. We always need some fun facts. I don't care if I'm in the way of the slide. Y'all can suck it up. You know, I don't know. The one I'm most proud of was Unknowing Either Sight Nor Sound because, I mean, it was the longest that I'd ever written. It was also like the most sort of developed world building I had. No, it wasn't very well developed, to be honest. It was the first time doing it, and I believe that I relied too heavily on both the initial original world building of both the Magnus Archives and Tangled to make it work. But for a first shot, it wasn't that bad. The one that made me most emotional was Two Corpses We Were, Two Corpses I Saw. That was the one that had the major character death in it, and it was just John and Martin dying of old age in bed together. And I'm not sure why I wrote that, but I was crying like the whole time that I was doing it. It was not pretty. My favourite was also Unknowing Either Sight Nor Sound, which I could just be biased because of how proud I am of it, but honestly, again, this is my PowerPoint, I can do what I want. My most self-indulgent, however, was Pinpointing Well-Meaning Upper-Class Prey. This was the first part of a 2-part series that I wrote, but the second part, though fewer people read it, it was because someone commented on the first part saying something like, I wonder what happens next, which I also wondered what happens next, so I wrote it. But just some advice for the future. I don't know how many other writers feel like this, but if I write a one-shot, don't just say, oh, I wonder what happens next. It's a one-shot for a reason, okay? I'm probably not going to write more of it. You're just going to be disappointed. But moving on, the most difficult to write was Imagine if antagonists lacked any evil scheme. It was the most recent one that I finished writing. I believe I only finished it like a week ago, and I don't know why it was so hard to write. It was like 30k words. It took me the same amount of time as my like nearly 80k word fic that I mentioned earlier. I think it was just because, I mean, I was just burnt out, I was busy. I was also trying to like tread the line between crack and an established plot, because as I said, it was a little longer than just like a crack one shot, but it was also just predominantly crack, so it kind of had to make sense. Whatever. The stupidest one was This Hoe Got the Corruption in Her Crib, which was inspired by a TikTok that I made, and it was just Jerry burning a lightener, but the lightener is This Hoe Got Roaches in Her Crib by Quan Mills, because it was at that time when TikTok was just like full of people making fun of like Quan Mills titles and stuff like that. We've also got one last fun fact. In total, I believe this year, but it could be including all years. I'm not sure what I was thinking when I wrote this slide. I've also written more for Helen/Annabelle than anyone ever has, which really isn't saying much. Under that tag, there are 20 works. I've written 5 of them. Another 5 Helen/Annabelle are background ships, right? And then the remaining 10 equal, like, I think less than 50k words in total. So, I mean, there's that. Now, we're on to the final segment, guys. We're on to the final segment. It's kind of a fic rec section. I'm not going to say these are my, like, top 15 fics for the year, because I didn't really want to rank them, because, first of all, it's hard to rank things like that. Secondly, I, again, don't agree with criticizing fan fictions that people put up on the internet. Free for other people, you know, if I don't like it, I'll just click out of it. It was really sad that I had to only pick 15, otherwise this video would just go on forever. These aren't in any particular, like, order. I believe that I put things by the same author together, but other than that, it's just the order that they went in, because it's not a ranking. I also mostly avoided putting one-shots in, because I wasn't going to sort through, like, 500 one-shots to figure out which ones I liked better, okay? I'm just not doing that. Right, our first one is the longest one that I read this year, The Making of Jonah Magnus, at 308,597 words by TheToadKing. Statement of Jonah Magnus regarding his apotheosis and the beginning of his service to the eye. I'll be reading the summaries of all of these out to you, but you can read the tags and then go read the fics, okay? These fics are all, like, really good. Go read them. This one, oh my god. I started reading it at, like, 8 p.m., 7 or 8 p.m., and I finished it at about 7 or 8 a.m., I was so sleepy, but, like, it was worth it, because, like, the chapters were, like, pretty short, like, relatively, so I could pretend that, like, it wasn't actually as long as it was. And because it was just, like, about, like, the Jonah Magnus timeline before the main archives timeline, it filled in so many of those gaps that, like, the podcast doesn't actually go into. And while I pride myself on knowing a lot about the Magnus archives, I still get confused with the canon from, like, this fic compared to, like, the actual canon of the podcast. But anyway, alright, moving on. We've got The Watcher's Bargain by arthurameslove at 189,892 words. Martin is no stranger to being bound to servitude. He has spent a lifetime indebted to the Witch of the Blackwood, and has only just managed to escape from under her influence by stealing for her a priceless Fey artifact. However, to ensure she escapes with the artifact and her newly endowed immortality, she makes sure Martin is caught by the Fey in her place. As punishment, Martin is given to a Fey named John. This author, you might have seen them in my top authors list, right? Their longer fics are so good, but the fucking angst. Like, this is why I'm a one-shot warrior, because angst just upsets me so much, especially when it isn't, like, immediately resolved, you know? And it's like, the fics are so good, but can I get through one of them without a character being tortured? Like, literally half the time, please? Anyway, okay, little tangent here. I love it when it's, like, some sort of other supernatural AU, like, let's say that, I don't know, just some random magic AU, and John is like, I am the lord of the eyeballs, right? And then Martin's like, okay, what's your name? And he's just like, John. Because it's like, what the fuck do you mean you're the king of the king of the mermaid fairies or something, and your name's John? Like, obviously, like, what else would his name be? But it's still funny. Next up, we've got The Friends of Mr. Spider by Pitchpine. This is a very popular one. It's been in my marked for later for ages, but for some reason I only just recently read it, like, in the last couple of months. John doesn't escape Mr. Spider and becomes a child avatar of the web. This changes some things, but not others. The actual summary had, like, quite a long excerpt in it, but it wouldn't fit on the slide, so I didn't put it here. This fic, like, it's popular for a reason, guys. That's all I have to say about it. This author too, I believe that the next slide is also one of theirs. They're just really fun. Yeah, The Trouble Is, Ghosts Aren't Real by Pitchpine. Timothy Stoker and Jonathan Sims are perfectly normal private investigators who have just moved to the quaint town of Stoneworth. Absolutely nothing sinister or spooky is going on. John definitely doesn't drink blood, Tim doesn't smell like wet dog, and their new flat most certainly isn't haunted. After all, ghosts aren't real, right? I love vampires! I don't know what that was. I love vampires, guys, please. If I like a ship, I want them to drink each other's blood. That's all there is for it, because, I know you can't tell without my usual makeup, but I'm basically a vampire, you know? Like, I guess you could just call me, like a vampire or some shit. I don't know. Occupational Hazards by Sunflowerprince. Oh, this is a long summary. Welcome to the Magnus Institute, a creature feature where representatives from every entity collaborate to preserve and investigate artifacts, examine public testimonials, conduct paranormal research, and yes, occasionally exterminate. There are our rapscallions we're fond of, such as that silly distortion, always getting up to hijinks and light maiming. But then there are our liabilities, such as Nicola Orsinoff and Jude Perry, who could really use some premeditated murder, which our team captain Basira Hussein is more than happy to arrange. We also must eliminate any and all manifestations of the extinction, because we're trying to have a nice time here. Featuring head archivist and resident vampire Jonathan Sims and his archival staff, task force captain and resident phoenix Basira Hussein and her squad, and director Elias Bouchard, which we have no idea what the fuck he is, but he sure is something. With special appearances from several departments to include research speared by Peter Lucas, and our pool of consultants to include our favourite podcaster and Avatar of the End, Georgie Barker. Step right in and mind the bloodshed and cassettes. I honestly didn't know what I was getting into when I started reading this fic. I was just like, fuck yeah, vampires. That was pretty much my thought process, but yeah, I thought maybe it'll be a bit silly, you know, but I mean, it was in some places. Other places, some serious shit went down. Not to spoil it for anybody who actually wants to read this fic, I'm pretty sure that I'm in the way of the author, so it is Occupational Hazards by Sunflowerprince. But Monster John Martin, I love Monster John Martin so much. I'm going to talk more about that later, but for now, we're going to go on to the next fic, which is The Thief Calls Me Home by cowboyselkie. When Martin Blackwood takes a job working at Peter Lucas's estate in the Highlands of Scotland, he meets an odd man down by the shore, who looks at him like no one ever has. This man proves to be another secret Martin Blackwood must keep, for more reasons than one. To be so sure of a love the world denies is a heavy burden to bear, but bearing it was, and will always be, a choice, and it's one that Martin has chosen. You know, when I read this, a combination that I was not expecting was mermaids, World War I, and circuses. But I honestly should have been expecting that. The angst, see that tag that says I'm not lying about the angst? They weren't lying about the angst. Fuck. But it was good. It was good. I cried though. I cried a lot though. So, what's that really saying? The Least That I Owe You by RedScribbler. This is another one that's been in my marked for later for like forever, and I just never got around to reading it. I really like this writer. I don't think I've read anything else of theirs this year, but I can't remember any of them by title right now, but I'll get back to that maybe. By the time they got to the safe house, they had been on the road for nearly 10 hours, and the sight of the tiny, quaint old cottage in the middle of nowhere was a blessed relief. Huh. Not what you were expecting? John asked, unbuckling his seatbelt. Martin shook his head. When you said it was daisies, I thought it would be something a bit more of The Hills Have Eyes. He stepped out of the car and reached up to the sky to stretch his back out. When he turned, John was staring at him from the other side of the car, nonplussed. It's a horror film. Ah. John pushed his glasses up his nose. Right. The Scottish safe house from beginning to end. Now, when I read safe house fics, which I do a lot, I tend to avoid ones that actually go into the spoiler alert for the Magnus archives. Just like skip ahead about 10 seconds, the apocalypse, right? But this one was just good. This one was just good, you know. Angst though. Angst. Why? Why does there have to be angst? Why can't people just be happy? Why can't the world just be sunshine and rainbows, guys? Next up, we've got In Reverse You Are All My Symmetry, a parallel I Would Lay My Life On, by yamswrites. You want me to get close to them? Gerard says, slowly. In a manner of speaking, Gertrude replies. Gerard pauses, considering her words. It takes him a minute to even begin to formulate a response, but he manages. Incredulously, he asks, Are you telling me you want me to try and seduce the distortion? So it's basically a Hannibal fusion, kind of. It was what kickstarted the renewal of my hyperfixation on Hannibal for a couple of months earlier this year. I had very mixed feelings about this fic when I first read it, right? I was reading it and I was like, why is everything so happy so quickly? I wasn't expecting this. Why are they using pet names in like chapter 9 or something? But then things got less happy also very quickly, and I was like, right. It also has something that I generally don't like, which is a bit of over-villainization of Gertrude Robinson. I love Gertrude Robinson, and a lot of people paint her to be like way worse than she is, especially like in Dorky Fics. It's really hard to avoid people just making her like way more evil than she actually is. And I think that's just because they're trying to make sure there's like a villain or some sort of opposing force to Dorky if it's like sort of more of an action kind of fic. But sometimes, like in this fic, it does work, right? Next up, we've got One Must Imagine Is Happy by Ennui JPEG. It is a one-shot, but it's over 20k, so I think it counts. Hold on. He reaches a hand towards Martin's face. You have a piece of dust or fluff or something. John's fingertips brush his cheek, feather light for just a second, and then they're gone, leaving the scent of coriander and mint in their wake. It renders Martin nearly dizzy. Oh, he breathes. Thanks, he says, and it's almost inaudible, even to himself. Childhoods are discussed during grocery trips, feelings spilled over wine and Scrabble, and marriage proposed on the linoleum flooring. Another Safe House fic. I love Safe House fics. This one doesn't go into the events of 160, which I do like. Safe House fics. That's all I have to say about this one. Okay, guys, I'm over in this corner for now. Pepper Cranes. Sure, Martin replied glumly. He wondered if this is how all those French people felt back in the days of guillotines. Huh. How do you think I should introduce myself to this archivist, anyway? They are going to be my boss, technically speaking, so I suppose I can at least try and make a good first impression. The look Tim and Sasha shared was certainly something. I don't think introductions will really be required, she said delicately. Right, okay, sure. Do you know what the name is? I ought to at least know that, right? Martin pressed on, voice tinted by desperation. Mr. Bouchard wouldn't... Again with the look, Martin was going to scream. Don't you worry about that, bud, Tim said with a very forced, nervous little grin. The archivist is just the archivist. Just get in there and Godspeed. Monster John. Bit less monster than I originally thought when I started reading it, but that was just my own misconceptions. Not really much else to say except Monster John, you know. I'm pretty sure this is the last one for the Magnus archives. Then we've got like 3 or 4 Hannibal fics in here. The Reminiscences of Martin Blackwood Postmortem by Oral Queer. Martin Blackwood is a reporter for the Observer newspaper. He's a normal enough man, and he'd like to keep it that way. He doesn't have much reason to suspect anything too far out of the ordinary when he heads down to University College Hospital on a hunch to visit the man who may or may not be dead. The man's name is Jonathan Sims, a failed academic by all accounts, though what he'd been doing before the explosion that threw him into a 6-month coma is at the mercy of baseless public speculation. Now he's lying in an empty ward with no heartbeat, dreaming. It seems like enough to fill a slow news day. Victorian AU. Along with vampire AUs, I love Victorian AUs. They often coincide. I don't think this one did, but it's just so fun, guys. It's just so fun. Originally, I was hesitant to read this because of the background Peter/Martin, but when I got to it, it was obvious that it was supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, which it did very well. I hate Peter/Martin, and it certainly worked to make me uncomfortable. But no, it was a really good fic. Now, I believe that we are on to Hannibal fic recs now, so if you're in the Hannibal fandom, stick around, I guess. Though I'm pretty sure all of these are very popular, so you know who am I to talk. First one is With Skin Intact and Altered Souls by Romantically Inept. Many travelers feel nervous about accepting rides for the same reason, Hannibal says. There is uncertainty on both sides of the equation. I have no way of knowing if you're dangerous, just as you have no way of knowing if I'm, say, he hesitates, licking his lips and pushes the envelope. A serial killer, for example. Will snorts his laughter, shifting to tuck his hands under his arms. Come on, he says, turning his head to look over at Hannibal. The chances of 2 serial killers being in one car would be astronomical. I have no problem with the fact that the majority of good Hannibal longer fics have smut in them, but it might make this presentation a little less embarrassing to make if this one hadn't. Not that I'm complaining, and honestly, if it hadn't, it might not even be in this list. And I stand with all of this. You can read all that, I don't care. But yeah, it was fire as hell. We've got all that, you know. Next up, The Mark of His Name. This was the second part in a 2-part series. The first one was Silence in Heaven, but I put this one in the presentation because it was longer, and I just think it was like, you know, Silence in Heaven was sort of like the beginning of it, and this is like actual fic, you know, by the glint of the rail. Will's managed to keep Hannibal from killing for the 2 years they've been on the run, but Hannibal isn't the one who's been struggling against his restraints. Will doesn't know how much longer he can keep his own monster in check, or if he even cares to keep trying. Again, Dark Will. I think a lot of these are showing a common theme that I like to read about with Monster John Martin, Dark Will Graham. I just like reading about gay people being really shit people, but also being in love. I don't know what that says about me, but, you know, we're just going to keep going. We're going to ignore any implications that has. Next, we've got Sea Change by Loonfall. Honor and righteousness were the first to be stripped away. Empathy followed soon after. The well of his imagination emptied temporarily, no water to quench the thirst of his mind. Now, Will Graham is lost in the aftermath of the fall, struggling to come to terms with the hole once filled by his morality, and what has come to take its place. In a world in which he has been reborn as a killer, Will's metamorphosis becomes something greater than himself. So far, the power of two men, two monsters, has yet to make itself known to the world. But perhaps this time the beast bound within him will break its chains at last. Perhaps, after years of striving to release this very element of him, it will be the thing that finally satisfies Hannibal Lecter's appetite. They have seen and felt the wrath of the Lamb, and they have gloried in it. Now it is time to witness the transformation. Not really much else to say there. It's just another post-fall Dark Will fic. Hey! And murder, of course. Always some good old murder. I believe this is the last one, and it's barely even a fic rec, because if you're in the Hannibal fandom and you haven't read this fic, genuinely, like, why not? It's one of the most popular fics in the fandom, and it's like, I'm not going to be like, oh, why haven't you read it? It's like the best thing ever, because, as I said, I'm not going to be stating anything that's like objective criticism, because there are certainly some things in the Hannibal fandom, some certain popular fics in the Hannibal fandom that I'm not going to read. I'm not going to name names, because, as I said, I'm against criticism, but you probably know what I'm talking about. Anyway, after the fall, Will drags Hannibal out of the Atlantic, and they find their way north to a remote part of Labrador, where they try to make a life together. Again, just, post-fall, ending up kind of Dark Will. There's cannibalism and murder, guys. We need more cannibalism and murder in all the fics. Put cannibalism in all your fics. I think it's so funny, honestly, that I was going through, like, my TikTok comment history a while ago, and I'd somehow managed to sort it by, like, date and find the oldest ones, and this particular account I've only had since I finished the Magnus archives in, like, mid-2023, and I had a comment from, as I said, like, mid-2023 being like, me when I'm trying to find a fluff fic, but I get hit with the cannibalism tag, and I just think that's really ironic now, because me when I'm trying to find a cannibalism fic, and I just keep getting hit with the fluff. Anyways, so that is all. I need more Monster John Martin. Like, either where it's like where Martin, you know, feeds John, either by bringing statement givers to him, making people have statements, you know, like, gosh, you know, it's awfully lonely around here, or random stranger, you should come meet my boyfriend, or giving his own statement, because I don't care. Eye powers are sexy. I'm just gonna say it. Elias Bouchard is not. If you watched my first video, do not do that, though. My mic was absolutely awful. I'm so glad. I don't know why I bought that mic, actually. It totally bombed any chance that I had of people actually watching my videos. Because first video wasn't too bad. Second video, absolutely atrocious. This mic is pretty bad too, but, you know, whatever. Anyway, or they're just, like, both avatars, just doing avatar things, right? Like, there were a couple of fics that I wanted to include in my top 15, but that would have made it more than 15. I can't remember the the authors, but they were 36 statements and all encased in gelatin. 36, they were both, like, pretty sure, like, under 10k, I believe. 36 statements was just, like, they went through the 36 questions, and it was post Mag 160, but they were both just, like, avatars, and they just went out, and they were just, like, having fun with doing avatar shit. And then all encased in gelatin was, I believe, a little shorter than that, right? I want to say about 7k, and it was basically just a John Martin AU where they were both, like, proper avatars, and they end up kind of, like, seeking each other out, and John ends up using his archivist powers a lot, and I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but you go read those two. That is it for my AO3 WRAPPED 2025. I really hope this video didn't lag too much, because I find it keeps doing that, and I can't do anything about it, guys. I'm sorry. My laptop was really hot, though, so it isn't boding well. But, you know, whatever. I will be tracking my AO3 again this year, and I'm also tracking my Magnus Archives listening. I haven't actually listened to an awful lot of it yet this year, but wait, just give me a sec. I'm going to go show you all the spreadsheet, because why not get off topic? Yeah, so basically I've just got the date that I listened to the episode title, and I put them all in, like, a little drop-down list so it's easy for me. Yeah, I was listening to them on shuffle yesterday. That's why it's just episode 11, episode 124, episode 130, episode 175, you know? And then the time that I spent listening to it, in case I just listened to like an excerpt of it or something, and then whether or not I listened to it overnight, and whether or not I cried while listening to it. And then the second column is for protocol, and the third column is for like the extras, like the Q&As and stuff. Though I hope I don't cry while listening to a Q&A. Anyway, guys, I hope that was at least slightly interesting. The presentation was originally a lot longer because I really like seeing the things that I've done and like compiling the data and stuff like that. There was a whole section of like monthly recaps, which I ended up just compressing into the top ship per month. But it was like my words per month, fics per month, ships, characters, tags. It was basically just an AO3 wrapped mini per month. But I realized nobody actually wants to hear me read that. Again, go read those fics that I suggested if you are in either of those fandoms and haven't read them. Go read my fics if you want, Distorteddies on AO3. If you have any ideas for videos for me to make on here, if you want to see anything in particular, either comment it or comment it on my TikTok. You know, I'm the same avatar of the lesbian. That's me. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it for today. Thank you for watching if you got this far. And I'll see you later if I ever make a video again.